Hello and welcome to a new episode of Hello, I'm Listening. Hello, hello, hello. Are you listening?
Yeah, I guess so.
We're back.
If you're not spewing nonsense, then I'm listening.
We're back with a new episode of Hello, I'm Listening. With me, Woifi.
And me, Dani.
Dani and Mrs. Butterscotch.
Oh,
hello, hi, yes, I'm back as well. And I quickly have to interrupt the program because I wrote a little letter for Patty Steiner.
Oh, no.
Patty Steiner, you know, listener, is a dear fan of mine. Probably the most famous fan of all of, because she is Danny's mother. And I wrote a little letter, which goes like this. I hope this letter finds you in a state of unparalleled fabulousness, dear darling. I simply couldn't resist the urge to write you, Mrs. Butterscotch herself. You know, the grand dame of the Hello, I'm Listening podcast, that's me. Your worldly
The grand dame?
Yeah. I'm worldly. You see?
Mm-hmm.
Your worldly wisdom and your legendary butterscotch butter biscuits. Oh, no, wait.
It sounds like it's a letter written to my mom from Mrs. Butterscotch. From my mom to Mrs. Butterscotch.
Yes, that's true.
So, Mrs. Butterscotch, I feel like you just put that into Chat GPT and didn't actually write a letter.
What are you talking about? Okay, no, I'm so sorry, dear listener. That was the wrong letter. Here's the right one. My dearest Patty, oh, what a delightful surprise it was to discover that I, the illustrious Mrs. Butterscotch, have a fan as devoted and charming as yourself. Your impeccable taste in podcasts and your impeccable choice of favorite segments have not gone unnoticed, my dear. I must say I always knew that those butterscotch butter biscuits of mine were simply irresistible, but who could have imagined they would create such an ardent admirer in you? Allow me to express my deepest gratitude to your unwavering support. It warms my heart, my old shriveled heart, to know that someone of your discerning palate appreciates the finer things in life, such as my delectable biscuits. And, of course, my witty banter on Hello, I'm Listening. I must admit, it's terribly amusing to think you're eagerly awaiting my every word, hanging on to my every sarcastic remark. One can only hope that my worldly wisdom and culinary expertise continue to bring a smile to your face. In the spirit of gratitude, and you know the season of Christmas is around the corner, I shall raise a cup of tea with a splash of butterscotch, naturally, in your honor. May your days be filled with laughter, delightful podcasts, and an endless supply of butterscotch butter biscuits. Thank you for being my most cherished fan, dear Patty, and go fuck yourself. Yours, Mrs. Butterscotch. Thank you for giving me the time to express my gratitude towards my dearest fan, Patty.
It felt a little not written by you.
What do you mean?
Yeah, there were parts of it where I was like, okay, clearly that's her talking, like, go fuck yourself, and, you know, my dear, lots of little things added in there to make it seem like maybe you wrote it.
I'm a very worldly and
worldly.
Worldly.
It's interesting that someone from Britain can't say worldly.
Because I lived in the Spain, you see.
I think they also pronounce W's as W's.
No,
okay.
They don't.
Mm-hmm.
You don't know because you've lived there.
I've never been to the Spains, that's true.
Exactly.
But there were also many words that you apparently wrote that you couldn't pronounce.
You know why? Because I had multiple strokes while reading that. I'm an old lady, you see.
Okay.
It's just natural for
okay,
me.
I'm
Yeah.
terribly sorry.
Yeah.
Mm.
So, Mrs. Butterscotch, thank you for that. I actually saw that she was writing that early in her coffin.
Do you have a camera in there?
No, but she asked me for a piece of paper and a old burned wood. She didn't even use, she used coal to write it. Yeah. But I saw that she actually wrote it, so it's a real letter to Patty.
Okay.
Sorry, dear listener, for going through that 4 or 5 minutes of nonsense.
If you're not subscribed, nice I'm seriously subscribe. Because
if you want to hear more shit like that, please subscribe to our podcast.
Also, if you write us on our Instagram and if you want a heartfelt letter from Mrs. Butterscotch yourself,
sure,
you can request that now. Maybe we should do that. Should.
Or we make that part of our Patreon.
Mrs. Butterscotch shouts out fans. That would actually
one of the first tiers gets you a handwritten
that'd be funny.
letter from Mrs. Butterscotch.
Joe, if you're listening, I know he's listening. Joe, just text me quickly and ask for a heartfelt letter from a personal written heartfelt letter from Mrs. Butterscotch.
Or request that she never returns.
Oh, or that. And we will see what we can do. Yeah. No, but seriously, subscribe if you want to, help us a little bit out. Then head over to Patreon, which Joe is waiting. And otherwise, rate the podcast. You can review and rate it on Apple Podcast and just rate it with stars on Spotify, which helps us a lot. And let's go into the episode. Finally, everybody's like, God damn it.
And if this is your first time here, I'm so sorry.
I mean, bro, most people just skip that segment. I don't know. I don't even know. I don't know clue. Either. I mean, we'll see it in the analytics. Maybe people skip the part that comes next. Like, I just want to hear Mrs. Butterscotch.
And they skip to the end of our conversation to see if she comes back.
Yeah, maybe.
Maybe.
No, but today's topic is...
Comfort zones.
Comfort zones.
Indeed.
Or the opposite, stepping out of your comfort, like discomfort zone. No, not discomfort, but stepping out of your comfort zones. Being worldly, as Mrs. Butterscotch would describe it.
How would you describe what a comfort zone is?
Look, I want to quickly indulge people why I chose the topic.
Okay.
I was driving home from work yesterday, and I recently, with all the shit that's going on in the world and with the media, buying into it, and obviously, they have to obviously do some reporting on that stuff. But I don't know. I feel like a lot of people are, pulling back a little bit in terms of not getting too much from the outside world in anymore, because it's so hard to digest all of it, which is a great privilege if you can do that, obviously. Sure. If you live in a country where you can do that, and where you don't have to fear for your life every day. But without going too much into that stuff. But I felt like that a lot of people are getting very comfortable in that space. And then I thought, like, okay, I feel like if you want to learn, if you want to continue your growth, if you want to I don't know, experience stuff that you usually don't experience, or if you haven't done yet, in a sense that obviously it makes you not feel super uncomfortable, that you would hate it, then it helps you by growing, by gathering new skills maybe, or just knowledge, or stuff that helps you maybe in the future at some point. And so I thought, like, maybe let's do putting yourself out there, like, and also what the good parts of having a comfort zone are. If that makes sense.
Okay, so back to my question. How would you define what your comfort zone is? I mean,
a comfort zone, I think, is just a space that you usually don't leave. In the sense that it doesn't have to be a physical space.
It's a psychological space.
But it is a routine. It could be a routine. It could be a habit. It could be something like your daily life. For example, I get up, walk the dog, go to work, come home, work out, walk the dog, go to bed, something like that. Something that you usually do, that you usually don't leave because it's your daily life, it's your routine. And the opposite, obviously, of that is outside of your comfort zone, something that you usually don't do. And I'm not saying going, out for dinner once in a while. That's For some people, that
I mean,
might
for
be.
some people, that is
No,
going
true,
outside of
true.
your comfort zone.
But that's you ask me my thing. In my case, it would be something that I usually don't do. For example, a couple of years ago, we went to Montenegro because I had to work there, and we did kite surfing, which is something I would never do.
Mm-hmm.
You know, it's something that I would never choose to do because it's so out of my comfort zone.
Mm.
But we did it because we got it for free, essentially, and it was a great fun.
Yep. I mean, for you.
I mean,
I did it less than you. I did at least try it. I have like a fear of the ocean.
I had the one. Yeah, that's true. I had the one. The thing is, once I got to stand up and actually go on the water for a little bit, I did not understand the whole thing up until that point. Up until that point, the whole thing made sense to me why people do it.
Mm-hmm.
But before that, I felt the same as you did. And sure, the ocean
for
stuff,
me, it was mostly I was super anxious the whole time and constantly thinking about, okay, what's beneath me? Is there something beneath me? Is something gonna like go past my leg? Yeah, it's a fear. I have a legitimate fear.
Nice, I get it. Do you remember the fish that Basti told us about? The fish that hides under the sand? Yeah. And one of them stepped into it. And once he told me that, that's the only thing I could think of anymore. I didn't want to step into it because apparently it hurts like hell.
Yeah. But I did it 2 days. And the first day, I really liked my instructor. She's lovely. Mm-hmm. The second day, I had a different instructor, and I did not like him. And he also went too fast and let me do things that I shouldn't have been doing yet because I didn't have the proper training to do them. And it made me have a very, very scary moment. And I was done after that. Yeah. But I tried it, and I'm glad that I tried it because that did still make me step out of my comfort zone and do something I wouldn't normally do.
Yeah. I mean, granted, going kite surfing, I think, is not something that could potentially, maybe, but not in our cases, contribute to our personal growth, I would say.
No, but it's still learning something new. It's still... I don't think that stepping out of your comfort zone has to contribute to your personal growth.
No, it doesn't have to, but it's nice because I think that's a more approachable thing.
But in the same way, it did kind of.
The traveling did. I would argue the traveling did.
Even the kite surfing did. Not necessarily the act of doing it, but the fact that you have to step out of your comfort zone. And you chose to.
I agree. I would
do something that makes you
I would
anxious
try something similar again in the future. That's true. That's true. No, I agree. In that case, it did.
Kind of opens your mind to other things, you know.
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah.
Give us or the listener an example like where you stepped completely out of your comfort zone.
I mean, the best one is probably moving here. I mean, I guess the first one is I moved from Wisconsin to Oregon, and I lived there for a year, and that was way out of my comfort zone because my brother lived there, but otherwise I didn't know anybody else there. And so, you know, new city, new everything, new job, and not knowing anything about the city or my way around and having to navigate all of that was way out of my comfort zone.
Yep.
But even more so was then moving here because I had to get rid of everything that I owned, and with the exception of I think I brought 2 suitcases here. I
mean, I think that's one of the most drastic things that you could do in terms of life and routines and stuff like that.
But I've also always been kind of the person who, I don't know, I think I often in my life have stepped out of my comfort zone. It's something that kind of comes more naturally to me. I'm just more of a go-getter kind of person. It's the same with starting the massage course here to learn massage because I didn't speak the language really, and I just was like, fuck it, I'm just gonna try it and see.
Yeah, even though I remember it took you a little bit of convincing yourself, and it took me also a little bit of pushing you towards that. But you
I don't think to do it necessarily.
No, but to keep doing it, especially at the beginning. Yeah.
It was because I have massive chest anxiety, and I mean, it was hard. It was there was a lot of times I was like, fuck, I don't know if I can do this, but I don't think there was ever a moment where I said I want to stop.
The especially I think in times of unrest and uncertainty, people tend to go back to things they know and go back to the comfort, which is totally natural. And I liked it as well. I started Gilmore Girls again because it just makes me feel good. And it's something that I know, and it's something that, also helps me calm down a little bit. Not to say that I need to, but, with all the stuff that's going on right now in Israel and Gaza and stuff, it's hard to sometimes, because I want to be informed. I don't want to just neglect it, because I feel like if I don't want to be one of those people running around in the world and trying to ignore things like that. So I try to inform myself, but sometimes it's really hard to read and see things that's going on. And so I turn to things that make me feel good. And I think especially with that's, by the way, Danielle rubbing her belly.
Sorry, I didn't know you could hear that.
But if in times like these, it's totally natural, and I think it's also good to have something like that where you can go back to. But at the same time, I think it's still not the worst to once in a while do something that pushes you a little bit, or that you would not normally do, or that in your head says, just going there and doing that requires so much effort or preparation, or, where it would be just much easier to just say no and ignore it.
I was reading something about why it's so hard to leave your comfort zone, because I think that's also an interesting factor in the whole thing. Because it's, there are a lot of people who just say, yeah, just do the thing, or just, take a leap, or, whatever people say these days, who knows. But some of the things that I found it kind of interesting that there were multiple reasons why people feel like they can't leave their comfort zone.
Okay.
And one of them is fear and uncertainty, which is, I think, the most obvious one. So, when we're in our comfort zone, where it's predictable, it's safe, it's easy. Yeah. And so to think about stepping outside of that can make you uncomfortable, can make you anxious, can make you fearful.
I mean, I think the biggest thing if you have something like that is like what is it called? The anxiety where you can leave your house even.
Yeah.
Maybe sometimes even your room or your bed.
Yeah.
That's like the worst case scenario of that type of comfort zone anxiety, whatever it's called. I don't know what the name is right now.
But the other one that I thought was interesting was they talked about in this article a fixed mindset. And it says when you have a fixed mindset, you convince yourself that you don't have the necessary skills to do or accomplish something. And I mean, think about how many times have you heard people... your mom comes to mind, where it's the smallest little thing. So like building an IKEA cabinet, and a small one, not a massive one, just a little small side table. Yeah. It probably consists of 4 big parts, I guess. Yeah. And there are directions which are not even written. They're just pictures. So it's pretty easy to follow. Yeah.
You don't have to drill, you don't have to...
She instantly goes to, I can't do that. I don't know how to do that. I need help with that. I can't, it's always this... She has this very fixed mindset of what she's capable of and what she's not capable of.
I mean, even today she asked me to, which is no problem, but she asked me to help her with a return thing for Amazon. Mm-hmm. Or not for Amazon, but for another service. And she got the email and she has to print it. I mean, I didn't ask what the problem was, but that's what she said. That's what she needed help with. Okay.
But that's also, I mean, it's a really common thing that people have is this fixed mindset where they feel like they're incapable of doing something. They don't have the skills necessary to do something, or they, I don't have people skills, or I don't have small talk skills, or I don't have, skills to put something together, or, it's just, they just get so set in that they can't do it, that everything that kind of falls into that category automatically becomes, no, I don't do that. I just ask for help because somebody else can do it.
Yeah. No, I totally agree. And with that, I think you get over those anxiety or those things that you tell yourself by doing stuff that puts you out there, by trying out building, simple things like building cabinets, trying out to, maybe get coffee at the same place multiple times during the weekend, maybe at some point talk to somebody, stuff like that, where you put yourself out there and it's a trial and error based thing. And it's I mean,
I have an example of that for myself, which was recently, when I moved here, I used to be, before I moved here with like the language barrier, but before I had a language barrier, when I was just in the States and, whatever, I had no problem like going to new places, talking to strangers, if I was at a bar or something and you just strike up conversation with people. That was never an issue for me. And I never felt uncomfortable in those situations. And then I moved here and there was the language barrier. And that put this mindset in me that was like, now I speak the language and I can very easily talk to people and get around. But I still, when I'm in new situations, it's like that part of my brain shuts off. And it's like,
obviously,
it's like that part of my brain is like, oh, you don't know how to speak the language. You can't talk to these people. You can't be part of this conversation. You have nothing important to add. And so I still have trouble doing things like on my own. I mean, I'm not the person who like wants to go out all the time and do stuff. But for example, last week I went to a pregnancy yoga class, and I at first was kind of...
Oh yeah, last week. Yeah.
At first I was actually kind of, reluctant to go when I had the idea of like, oh, I should maybe try that because it's right here. It's in the area. It's close. Meet other pregnant women. And I just decided, fuck it, I'm just going to do it. And that was me stepping out of my comfort zone, because I knew there's someone told me about it and they're like, oh, it's really nice. You have yoga. And then afterwards you drink tea and you talk to each other. And I was super nervous about talking with these people.
Sure. No, I totally understand. But that's something you have to just do.
Right.
And train yourself to do. And at some point, maybe it doesn't come natural, but at some point you develop the skill to just step over that feeling, to say, okay, I'm just doing it.
For me, it's more about, I have that skill and I know I have that skill, but my brain has tricked me over the years to tell me I don't have that skill. Because it's like, oh, you don't have that skill in German. Yeah. Therefore, you should just be silent and not do anything. I have a hard time
just talking to random strangers.
Yeah.
But with me working a lot with people that I don't know, I learned in the last couple of years to strike up conversations, to be a approachable, talkable person.
Yeah.
So especially customers don't feel like, oh, he's not like talkative, or he's just super silent the whole time. And yeah, that helped me also a lot, I think, in my growth as just in general in my private life, where I can just talk to people without feeling weird or I don't know.
Yeah.
I have things now, like it's a skill set now that I didn't have before. And I had to put myself out there, obviously, especially, if you're self-employed, when you want to get customers, you have to meet new people, you have to talk to new people, you have to once in a while go somewhere where you don't know anybody. Sorry. But I want to also again highlight the positives of having a comfort zone. I think it's very important to have one, and we also should be very aware and grateful if we have one that we can use without again fearing for our lives or fearing of uncertainty that something might happen to that place, because it's not something that is just a common thing that everybody does have.
Yeah.
So I think it's also important to acknowledge that a little bit and be aware of it. I think that's the most important thing here, because again, it's nothing bad to be in your comfort zone. It's not bad to choose not to do something that maybe put yourself out of your comfort zone, but instead just stay home, watch a movie, or stuff like that. That's not. I don't want to shun that. I don't want to make it seem like this is better than the other thing. But I think it's just simply being aware of, okay, I'm in my comfort zone, And at some point, maybe if I have not left my comfort zone for a longer time, maybe I should put myself out there anymore, because at some point it could turn into anxiety, could turn into something more that maybe in the future feels harder to control.
Yeah.
I don't know if that makes
Yeah,
sense.
but your comfort zone can also be not necessarily like the things that you do in your free time, but it can also be if you've been working the same job that you hate for 10 years and you're just too afraid to get out, because I've been in that situation where I'm just like, I'm so comfortable in this position and I'm scared of like what could happen next. Like, what if I don't find something, or, what if I have it fairly decent here and then the next place is even worse? You have all of these what ifs. But I think it's important to remember the worst thing that can happen, which is really not that bad, is you fail. And failure's also not a bad thing. I think it has a negative connotation to it.
The thing is, you have to fail.
Or, the worst thing that somebody can say is no. Okay, then it's a no.
Right.
It's not like... Things like that are not the end of the world. And I know at times they feel like it, especially with like a job or something. If you're looking for a job and you keep getting rejection after rejection after rejection, then sure, it eats away at you a little bit and you start to think, okay, is it me? What am I doing wrong? And you have all these doubts. But at the same time, that just means it wasn't the right fit. So not just for them, but then maybe for you. Maybe it's good that you didn't get that, because like we talked about in a previous episode, I think that everything happens for a reason. Mm-hmm. And there's a reason why I didn't get this job at this age, or there's a reason why I didn't get this internship or get, whatever it might be.
Yeah.
There's a reason that this person said no to my request.
No, I totally agree. I think also what I've learned in the last couple of years, especially in my professional life, is that with putting yourself out there, you gain skills and you push yourself, you learn, you maybe get better in certain things, and at some point you have an opportunity to do something. You meet someone and that person or that moment gives you an opportunity to something. If it's a professional life, or even you meet maybe your love of your life or a new good friend or something like that. And there's this one saying, it's called, what is it, luck is opportunity meets preparation. That's what it is. And I like that, because that just tells me, okay, luck is not something that happens randomly, but luck is something that I have to constantly ask for, in the sense that I have to put myself in positions or in situations where I might not be usually, but maybe through that I gain something. And it could be something that is for that moment or for my personal skill set, or in a long-term effect where I can meet a friend that, becomes my best friend, or a business partner, or the love of my life. You never know that. But I also want to add that there is the opposite of, or there's a different form of putting yourself out of your comfort zone, in the sense that doing stuff with people that you don't like or make you feel uncomfortable, or toxic people and stuff like that. Obviously, that's not what we're talking about, because I'm not saying you should spend time with people that you don't like, or that are toxic in your life or for you.
I just thought of the other side of it too, where, we talk a lot about stepping out of your comfort zone, in the sense that, in more like our sense. So we're sitting at home a lot of the time. We're not really going out that much. And so out of our comfort zone is kind of like going out and interacting with people. But it could also be the opposite. Maybe you go out all the time because you can't be alone. Maybe your comfort zone is being surrounded by action all the time. And so being alone and just spending time with yourself, time with yourself, is maybe out of your comfort zone. And that's another thing that you can gain a lot from being able to do. I mean, going to dinner by yourself for one, that's a massive one.
I mean that's something that not a lot of people have done yet, but
I know, but I did it when I was in Portland a lot, because I was trying to step out of my comfort zone and trying to be okay with being by myself. And I would go to movies by myself. I would go treat myself to dinner, and it was hard at first because it feels a little weird because you have these thoughts like everybody's judging me because I'm here by myself.
I mean, I always do when there's someone coming along. Nah,
The thing is, I think most people don't think twice about it because if I see someone sitting alone, I'm not like, ooh, why are they alone? Like the thought doesn't even come into my head.
But it's funny, a lot of people are afraid of being alone, but that's not the point. That's not how I think it is. Most people are, if they are afraid of being alone, they're afraid of being with themselves because they don't know how to be with themselves.
Yeah.
They don't know how to either, maybe their thoughts are super intrusive then, or they turn into anxiety, or they can't even do something with themselves, like actually spend time with themselves, like do something maybe for themselves, or read a good book or something without needing to go outside or needing to surround themselves with people. Yeah. And I know plenty of people who are in that space. I'm not saying that comfort zone is not good, but as you said, maybe the opposite once in a while is not that bad, because at some point everybody has some alone time. Yeah. And in that sense,
it's good to be able to navigate in those situations, no matter what your comfort zone is. If you don't like being around people, it's good to be able to navigate being around people without feeling anxious, without feeling scared, without feeling overwhelmed, because those situations are bound to happen at some point. So it's good, I think, in that sense, to step out of your comfort zone once in a while, to be prepared for the moments that maybe are out of your control that happen, that might make you feel that way.
Even if you are trying to, make your life or try to make your life out that way where you don't have to interact with people a lot, or where you don't have to even have contact with people at all, which I bet there are some people who try to manage their life in a way, and especially nowadays with food delivery and stuff like that, you don't necessarily have to be
and you can schedule most appointments online. You can do everything online.
But even then, I'm not saying that it's a good life to I'm not judging anybody because I don't know them, obviously, but there is no harm in a foul in just stepping out once in a while. Even though I've watched a YouTube video recently where it was about 3 people, I think, and who lived in complete solidarity.
Yeah, we watched that together.
And it was kind of cool to see their point of view and why they chose to do that. And they're not lonely, and they're not like people shy. They were still very friendly and open to talking to people and stuff like that. It's not like they were like closed off. Not at all. So there's obviously that as well.
I mean, there is power in being able to be by yourself.
Sure.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I don't have anything else to add. I just wanted to say one more thing that was very liberating to me. That was the first time I talked about this before. That was the first time I traveled alone, like a far trip alone, to the US by myself. And granted, I wasn't like super alone there because I was with you a week, and then I was in San Francisco and I met like 2 friends and we spent some time there.
But granted, in San Francisco, you were still...
I was alone most of the time.
By yourself there.
I had an apartment alone. I navigated the city alone with the car. I did a lot of problem solving around the city. I had an incident with, the what is it called? Like I got a ticket, a parking ticket, and I had to go to the DMV. And I did a lot of things that put me completely out of my comfort zone. But, already being there, already navigating a very new city and space, I was already, pushed in that direction. So things like going to the DMV and doing something that I've never thought I would do, felt very liberating. And I remember coming back and I said to everybody, and I was still saying that if people ask me, travel alone at some point. Yeah. Just travel alone, go on a trip by yourself. I'm not saying that you have to be not meeting anybody that you know or not, but still traveling alone, navigating through airports, through train stations, finding your way, and maybe going to a place where it's not your native language. I mean, obviously it's easier if you go to a place where you can communicate with English.
I think it's also easier if you're a man. simply because of,
no, I agree.
I think people know what I mean by
I
that.
agree.
Not because men are the greater species.
I think in some certain situations, especially like if you have problems with the law, I think it's easier if you're a woman because you're probably overlooked.
But I think it's more comfortable to travel alone as a man.
I totally agree. 100%.
As someone who has traveled alone.
No,
and
100%, 100%. I mean, there are so many creeps out there and people who.
I mean, women are already all the time. If walking alone, even in your own neighborhood, we're on edge. We're ready. We're prepared. We're cautious.
No, I get that.
So
I get that.
Traveling completely alone as a woman is a little. It's still great. I think it's great if you have the opportunity and you feel safe and you feel comfortable. Do it, absolutely. But I think it's a little harder.
No, I would think so. Yeah, totally. Yeah, but that's something I just wanted to share again.
But it is great. I mean, I've done it too, and it's wonderful.
Very liberating, and I think opens up a new horizon. And if you can, at some point, if you have the opportunity, just do it.
Yeah.
Even if it's just for a week or something. And it helped me now with traveling for work once in a while. It helped me a lot too to just be very comfortable in those situations. I usually got very nervous when going to the airport because I got stressed and I had IBS and stuff like that. But nowadays it's just it's second nature to me.
Yeah.
And I don't even think about it anymore. So yeah, that's it.
That's it.
Again, please subscribe to the podcast, rate the podcast on Apple Podcast and Spotify. Head over to our Patreon. That would help us a lot. We have 2 tiers there. You can just basically pay us a fee for like a month or 2, or just keep continuing until you don't want anymore. And it supports us. It goes all into the podcast. As you know, we produce the podcast ourselves. We buy all of our equipment. We host it. We have a website. We have stuff that costs money. So if you help us, we can keep producing that stuff. And you also get a lot of other stuff with that. You get more personal contact. You get in the second tier a shirt. And yeah.
And I guess we're adding a new thing with a letter from Mrs. Butterscotch.
We might actually add that today. So yeah, look out for that. That's it.
Watch out for deer.